Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving into a disturbing true story I found on Reddit. It's the kind of story that stays with you long after it's over. So turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready. Because this one, it's different.
Some places hold secrets you were never meant to hear, and some voices, once they find a way to reach you, they never let go. This is the story of a mother, a child, and a phone that should never have worked. A call from somewhere that doesn't exist. But if you ever hear it ringing, don't answer.
I can no longer recall with any certainty how the phone came into Mia's possession. Perhaps she discovered it at the school fete, a cheap, unwanted trinket forgotten on a trestle table, amidst half-deflated balloons and crumpled raffle tickets. I can almost picture her, unnoticed in the noisy chaos, small fingers closing around the garish pink body as if it were always meant for her. Or maybe she simply took it, a quiet act of claiming, that moment of contact sealing something I didn't yet understand. By the time I noticed, the phone had already become a part of her, clutched in her little hand like a secret treasure, brought home with the solemnity of something inevitable. It looked harmless enough at first, bright bubblegum pink casing, oversized buttons arranged in neat rows, a coiled wire connecting to a hollow receiver. Cheap plastic, no weight to it, no seams for batteries or screws. It should have been nothing more than molded junk. Until the dial tone began. A thin, steady hum bled from deep inside the toy, a sound that vibrated in the air with a mechanical hunger. It wasn't loud, yet it felt invasive, like a faint electric current crawling over my skin. There were no electronics inside, no reason at all for it to make any sound. Mia pressed the oversized buttons with deliberate focus. Beep, beep, beep. The buzz returned, impossibly real. "See, Mama?" she said, her voice light, her expression serious. "It works." I forced a smile, water from the sink dripping from my fingers onto the worn linoleum. Some part of my mind insisted there had to be a rational explanation. A hidden watch battery, a cheap sound chip sealed somewhere inside. Children's toys were like that, full of secrets. "That's lovely, Bug," I said, trying to keep my tone casual. "Who are you calling?" But Mia wasn't pretending. She pressed the receiver to her ear, and in that moment her small face shifted into an expression I didn't recognize. Utterly still, brows faintly knitted, pupils dilated until her irises were thin rings of pale color. Slowly, she lowered the receiver. "Mama?" she whispered, her voice almost soundless. "The phone man says he's downstairs." Downstairs? The word lodged in my chest like a shard of ice. Boxgrove Cottage, our refuge on the edge of the moors, built stone by David before cancer took him, had no basement. I knew every joist, every beam, every packed inch of earth beneath. David had walked me through its bones before the floorboards were laid. "There's no downstairs here, sweetheart," I managed, forcing a weak laugh. "Silly phone man." But the ritual began. Day after day, Mia pressed any button. Beep, beep, beep. The dial tone hummed, metallic and hungry, followed by a silence that stretched, heavy and thick. Then Mia listened, perfectly still, her child's face absorbing words I could not hear. "He's downstairs," she would state simply, returning the receiver to its cradle. Each time a little more dread pooled in my chest. One grey afternoon, as rain lashed the windows and wind clawed at the eaves, she shivered violently after a call, her teeth clicking audibly. "He says it's cold down there, Mama. Really cold." A chill chased itself along my spine, leaving my fingers numb. Something inside me snapped. I snatched the phone from her grip, the plastic biting into my skin with an unnatural frigidity. It was the cold of something that had never known sunlight, that pulled the warmth greedily from my flesh. I hurled it into the kitchen bin. Mia's response was immediate, primal. A scream tore from her throat, high and raw, rattling the cupboards. She pummeled my legs with her fists, her voice cracking in a desperate, ragged plea. My phone. My phone. She collapsed in a heap, trembling and hiccuping, her face wet with tears, betrayal carved deep into her features. Shaken, I fished the hateful thing from the bin, wiping damp coffee grounds from its garish shell. Fine. That night I hid it properly. Wrapped in an old tea towel, I shoved it deep into the cold, shadowed recesses of the linen closet, behind towers of yellowed towels that smelled of old lavender and mildew. I locked the closet, checking the bolt twice. Mia slept peacefully, her hands empty. Yet the next morning she appeared at my bedside, hair sleep-tousled, pajamas rumpled. And in her hand, clutched tight, was the pink plastic phone. The sight of it froze my blood. I stumbled to the linen closet. The lock was still engaged. My fingers shook as I turned the key, the old metal biting into my palm. Inside, the stacks of towels were undisturbed exactly as I'd left them. I reached into the farthest corner, fingertips scraping the cold wall. Nothing. The tea towel bundle was gone. He missed us, Mia said softly from behind me. Panic coiled in my gut. I called Tom. "Kids, sir," he said with forced cheer, his laugh echoing down the line. "Remember Brutus? My invisible wolf that ate my homework?" "This isn't Brutus," I whispered. "She asked me yesterday why the phone man lies to her. She knows there's no downstairs." A silence heavier than words filled the line. "Right," Tom said at last, his voice stripped of all levity. "Bring the bloody thing over, we'll have a look at it." Tom's apartment reeked of stale pizza and damp laundry, a smell that clung to the walls. Mia proudly demonstrated the phone. Beep, beep, beep. Dial tone, silence, beep, beep, beep. Another pause. Relief left me dizzy. "Thank God," I breathed, slumping against the counter, but Tom turned the inert toy over and over in his big hands, his brow creased. "Or maybe," he said slowly, his gaze locking on mine, "it only works there." At the cottage. The drive back was thick with unspoken dread. When I finally turned the heavy oak key in the cottage door, the toy split the silence with a shrill mechanical rang that made my breath catch. Mia answered before I could move. "Uh-huh," she murmured, eyes wide, expression unnervingly calm. "Okay?" She held the receiver out to me. "He says you have to talk now, Mama." My hand trembled as I took it. Static hissed, a jagged rasp, like dry leaves dragged across stone. Then a voice impossibly vast resonated from the cheap plastic shell. "Sarah." It knew my name. "Can you feel the cold seep up? Let me in. I am downstairs." The receiver fell from my hand, clattering against the flagstone. Mia's voice trembled. "Mama, you're all white." We had to go. I scooped her up and ran for the front door, fumbling the bolt. The night air struck like ice water. I shoved Mia into the Volvo. "Stay here," I gasped, lunging into the driver's seat. The key scraped metal. I turned it. Nothing. Again. Dead. A wave of cold brushed the nape of my neck, a presence vast and silent. I turned. The open doorway gaped, black and watching. With a choked sob, I dragged Mia from the car. Sprinting back to the cottage, I slammed the heavy oak door, throwing the bolt with all my strength. I raced to the back door, locked it, yanked curtains shut across every window, plunging the house into suffocating twilight. Night fell like a shroud. I huddled on the sofa, Mia pressed tight against me, her breath soft against my chest. Each beat of my heart pounded a frantic rhythm beneath her. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me into restless sleep. I dreamed of roots as thick as my arms, slick with black moisture, forcing jagged cracks through the flint foundation. I dreamed of something ancient and patient, unfurling deep below, shifting with the slow inevitability of Earth itself. A sound tore me awake. Scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. Not at the doors, not the windows. Beneath the floor, directly under the threadbare rug before the cold hearth. Something sharp and deliberate dragging across stone, scritch, scratch, scritch, scratch. I lay rigid, lungs locked, eyes fixed on the boards. The sound ceased. Then came the vibration, a deep, marrow-deep resonance that pressed against my skull. Sarah. The voice stripped of humanity was the grinding of stone, the weight of the earth itself. Then silence. A silence filled with the suffocating knowledge of what waited below.